You're listening to the Apex One News magazine. Now, calm has returned to Senegal after a week of unrest, marked by street protests in the capital Dakar and other cities in the country. Thousands came out to protest the arrest of the main opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko, who was charged with rape. Protesters blamed Senegalese President Macky Sall of clamping down on the opposition by using a flimsy excuse of rape and described this as dictatorship. The violent protests, characterized by stone throwing, burning of houses and cars, and tear gas firing from the police, led to the killing of at least 5 people. Senegal has for a long time been considered as the island of peace in a turbulent sub-region. But what does this latest development mean to the country's democracy? Now joining us for a reading of the situation is USA-based Senegalese activist and humanitarian Kadiija Diallo. Kadiija, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ernest, for having me.
First, why would supporters of Ousmane Sonko protest when the latter's arrest was connected to a crime he's accused to have committed? Was this protest justified?
Okay, so if we know what happened is that Ousmane Sonko was allegedly charged of rape, and then when he was on his way to give his deposition, he was now then accused of disturbing public order. So the protest now is bigger than him. I mean, his arrest was what sparked the protest, but it's bigger than him. Now people are marching and protesting the lack of democracy. They're protesting the lack of proper health care. People are hungry. People don't have the resources that they need to live a full and normal life. So they are actually protesting all of the things that they have been stripped away from. Yes.
So how long have Senegalese been complaining of these vices you just named?
So people have been suffering from it for years now, especially for the educational system and the healthcare system. But people are not heard, or the people in charge do not want to hear the population. They know what is wrong. They know what is happening in their country, but they just choose to ignore it. And so people are suffering from it and dying from it.
Now, protesters blame the president for clamping down on the opposition, but we also understand that Macky Sall is doing his last term and would certainly have no interest staying in power. So why would the opposition think that he is against them?
I mean, he has not been clear about whether or not he was going to run for a third term, even though a third term is against the constitution of Senegal. Mm-hmm. So that uncertainty is what is, giving people question, and they're asking, okay, is the president going to run or not? And also because he really made it clear that he was going to block every opponent that he was going to have. So that is the main problem. And because he showed throughout the years since he's been in power that everyone that was gonna disagree with him and every member of the opposition is not going to have their way in this country, and that he was going to be on top of it. So that's why people are enraged, and also that's what sparked the protest also.
Right. Kadiija, we do understand that Senegal is one of the countries in Africa that respects the tenets of democracy. At least we've seen in the past where presidents have had to leave power without any trouble. It was a smooth transition from Abdou Diouf to Abdoulaye Wade. Abdoulaye Wade smoothly transited, to Macky Sall, though at the end of his mandate, there was going to be some hitches, but that was, easily cleared away. Why should we be thinking that Senegal is a problem when it comes to democracy? Is there something we don't know about that country which you may like to explain to us?
I mean, because if we go back to how Abdoulaye Wade, former president, left the power, there were some strikes, but it was not that bad as it is now. But even though when Macky Sall was running for president, he was actually fighting for the same things he's being accused of right now. He used to say, the leader of the country is never going to have the last word. The population elected the leader, so always they were going to have the last word, and that someone needs to know when they should stop. So he asked Abdoulaye Wade to, take a step down because it was time for him to go and for another generation to come up and lead the country. So that's why people are actually, they think that maybe he has in his plans to, not respect the constitution and ask for a third term, even though he's not supposed to. But yeah, because he really, if we go back in those years since he's been in power, he locked up at least two of his opponents, one of them being Karim Wade, son of Abdoulaye Wade, and also Khalifa Sall, former mayor of Dakar, and also not allowing them to run in the presidency. So that is a problem, and all of those things, I guess, shoot as red flags for the population, and they think now he is too greedy. But also, if we talk about all that he's done, also his affiliation with the French, also that has been causing a lot of problem, because most of the funds that we have back home in Senegal go back to the French, and that is the main problem. And even if we see how Ousmane Sonko was liberated, the French has a lot of, input in what's happened with that, because the president did not listen to the population's cries. People have been dying during those protests, and he has been silent for a long time. But come to know, a recent interview where we come to discover that actually the president of France, Macron, has a lot to do with him liberating Ousmane Sonko. And even though he is free, still he hasn't been given back his parliamentary immunity, which is not okay. So a lot of red flags coming from him, and making people think, well, maybe he is still greedy and he wants more.
In terms of development, how would you assess his being in power? If Macky Sall leaves power today, would he have achieved, something big as far as the development of that country is concerned?
I mean, even yesterday we were talking about it. We were saying that in his first terms, he made a lot of changes, trying to better the roads and everything else. But then it went all south, because first of all, his whole government is based on nepotism. A lot of his family members and family members from his wife are in the government, and also a lot of scandals regarding them filling their pockets and leaving the population to die. So yeah, the first term, I guess, we say that every leader is going to try and make a good impression on their first term, and then once they have people in their pockets, then they're going to do whatever they want. So I guess it's the case for him.
So as we speak, what is the situation in the country? Has calm returned on the streets of Dakar and other parts of Senegal?
I mean, it has been calm. It has been calm because we had protests that were scheduled, but peaceful protest that was scheduled for today and for also yesterday, Friday, and Saturday, but they were all canceled because they said yesterday that a spiritual leader back home advised people to now calm down and return to peace, but also he advised the president to do what is right. because we had some prisoners from the protests, because people who were protesting were taken by the police. He asked the president to free them. He asked the president to help the families victims, the families who lost their kids in this process, because we lost at least 13 young people, 13 young men during this protest. And he actually said everything about that to free the protesters, to help the families, to heal everybody that is in the hospitals right now. So yeah, I mean, calm has returned, but right now I've never seen a youth of our country so determined for peace and also for the respect of our rights. Because I don't know if you know this, but during the protests, I mean, the first 2 days, internet connection was restricted because they didn't want us to share information with the world. So because we were battling in social media and everything else, WhatsApp also was prohibited. And so all of this is showing that they were not allowing us actually to speak out on what was happening, because they knew it was wrong. And so that was a total lack of democracy and shows a lot of dictatorship.
Kadiija Diallo is a USA-based Senegalese activist and humanitarian. She was talking there about the current protests going on in Senegal. Kadiija, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.